Hello and greetings to the host and everyone listening to this podcast. My name is Zaya. I've been dedicated music listener for a couple of years now and I listen to metal music more. Also, I make short videos, reels on Instagram about my favorite bands and tracks, albums. My music listening journey has started when I was in high school and when I saw the movie called Until the Light Takes Us. It's a documentary about Norwegian black metal. But over time, I found myself gravitating more towards DSP, post black metal, and black gaze. And here are my favorite tracks of all time, and I will try to introduce it from my personal experience and feeling rather than formal knowledge of music. So the very first track is The Abyss Looks Into Me by Belgian band Oathbreaker. It opens the playlist because of how deceptively it draws you in. The vocalist Karo Tange moves between a soft, near hypnotic hum into a more raw screaming, and it never feels like a stylistic contrast, so much as two sides of the same emotional truth. The abyss doesn't always announce itself with noise, sometimes it just calls you in quietly. It just really filled the void inside me, the hollowness, and also I just felt like there was this crashing feeling about almost like void, the abyss spiraling inside my chest. And when I first listened to this track, The Abyss Looks Into Me, it just really felt like it was singing about the hollowness inside me and feeling it at the same time. That's the reason I'm starting the playlist with this track. The second track is A Solitary Rain from Sixth Mass by Amenra. And this one holds really special place inside my heart, not like any other track. So recently there was a period of time I had to endure alone in solitude, and I felt really melancholic and heartbroken at that time. And I just couldn't go a day without listening to this track. It just really almost became a ritual for me to listen to this track. What sets Amenra apart from other bands is that their darkness carries an emotional and almost a spiritual weight that's hard to articulate but impossible to miss. So this song doesn't really offer escape from pain, but rather it just demands you to sit inside it fully. So if the first track by Outbreaker was the invitation into darkness, Amenra was where I learned to actually sit with the darkness, sit inside it. Because it has this like really hypnotic, smooth riffs and like vocals, and then also it has this crashing, heavy drops of like heavy riffs at the same time. So it's just really spiritual and heavy.
You touch the vibe, I saw distance in your eyes. You came to claim what was his, and for years I lived a solitary rain. I'm trace steps to your embrace. I want you to stay, yet you died away. Touch the vibe, I see distance in your eyes, kissing me to sleep tonight.
The third track is called Melting by Dopamine. Dopamine is a Chinese depressive black metal band. And for a while, I really listened to only Western musics, European bands. And then I discovered Pest Production. It's a Chinese independent label. So when I discovered Pest Production, Dopamine was one of the first bands I listened to. And where a lot of DSPM bands and music can feel so distant and cold, but for Dopamine was their grief felt immediate and unfiltered. And at the time, I was a really sad, melancholic teenager, still figuring out the difficult emotions. And Melting captures something that I didn't yet have words for, and I didn't know how to express it. So listening to Melting was really felt like understood by someone. And it's still one of my all-time favorite tracks. The fourth track is a Glowworm by Chinese band, also Chinese band, Luminescence. It's a post-black metal project. And what hooked me first was there was this Japanese sample from a movie called Confessions. I really loved that movie. Also, it's just really painful to think about what goes on in that movie. It's about grief, loss of someone you love. The track has the sample from that movie, and that's the reason why I first started listening to that track. There's a moment in the sample where a soft click sound, something precious disappearing, and that becomes the emotional axis in the whole track. The glowworm carries a light inside the darkness and blooms in secret. So I think that was really a beautiful reference for the track itself and its feelings.
「
The next track I would like to recommend is Curtain by Portal. It's an Australian band, and it's really different from the four songs I introduced before. It's like death metal, avant-garde metal, I would say. And it stands deliberately apart from everything before it. Same darkness, but different expression, different language. So my path to finding Portal wasn't through music at all, but through my long love for Gothic literature and Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe is, in my opinion, the godfather of horror and Gothic novels. When a friend pointed me towards this track, knowing my love for Poe, it felt like two worlds collapsing. The music video draws directly from his poem called The Conqueror Worm, and Portal's dense, suffocating, disorienting sound captures that vision perfectly, I would say. And for someone who fell in love with Poe's ability to find darkness and beauty in dark despair feelings, Portal really feels like a natural and inevitable destination for me. taken together, this playlist has always been about one thing. It's about not escaping the darkness, but finding something meaningful inside it and learn from it. So I hope everyone enjoyed the playlist, and thank you so much for listening. I really hope at least one of these tracks find the way they found me. It was the playlist with Zaya. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm really honored to be part of this project. Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.